Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Stripping the Dipping. I'm Colin Johnston, your host this evening, for some more chat around the world of motorsport and automotive. Our guest this evening is a racing driver and businessman involved in some exciting ventures. So please join me in welcoming Steve Lake. Steve, great to have you along. How are you this evening?
Yeah, good, thank you. Still aching from the weekend, but yeah, not bad.
Aching from the weekend up to adventures, racing?
Yeah, it's GT4 round at Donington, so it was a 3 hour
Yes.
race. So kept us entertained with the wet, dry conditions.
Oh goodness, yes. I'm sure we'll get on to that. Are you with the Lotus GT4s that you're running now in the British series and Europe as well?
Yeah, I'm doing British and European for my sins, so it's a hard life. Someone's got to do it.
Someone's got to do it. Someone's got to race Lotuses internationally. but I suppose let's wind back. Let's go back to the beginning.
Yeah.
And Steve, how would you introduce yourself? Who is Steve Lake?
Cool, that's a question. Love me or hate me type of person. Pretty sort of chilled out. I don't really know how to answer that question. That's quite a stumping question. I'm just like, I enjoy life. I try and just enjoy the moment. I like to do stuff. Enjoy doing stuff rather than talking about it. I make it happen.
Yeah, yeah.
No matter what the consequences sometimes. But hey, it's I've got no regrets in my life, so that's good.
That's the way to do it. That's the way to do it. Yep. Do what you like within reason, and yep, move forward.
I don't think
So
there's any within reason. that maybe answers a little bit more of a conversation. It's just like, oh, I fancy that. Yeah, okay, off you go and do it.
go for it. Go for it.
Yeah,
Go for
that's
it.
it.
Well, it's working about. It's working out for you anyway. You're still standing.
Yeah, that's it. Just yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not bad.
So, how and why motor racing? Did you discover motor racing when you were a kid, or how did you become
Yeah.
interested in it?
Okay. I suppose it's all either be boring or interesting, depending on who you are. So I apologise now if you toddle off
I
after
find
about
it
10
interesting.
seconds of listening.
You may think it's
Um,
boring, but I find it interesting.
right. So, without sounding sort of like wanting any sort of sympathy here, I grew up. I'm an only child. My parents didn't have very much money. My mum didn't really work. My dad did, but not earning great money. He's an electrician or sound engineer. And my friends used to have Bogger 50s, which were little motorbikes from years ago, and we used to run around the fields on them. I'm talking, I was about sort of 7, 8 years old. And I wanted one. My dad wouldn't let me have one, so I was a bit annoyed about it. So I decided that, well, if I couldn't have a motorbike, then I better get a go-kart. It was the next best thing.
Mhm.
So I actually had a Black and Decker drill off my nan and started earning money from about 8 years old. I was building gates. I was doing birdhouses, DIY, like literally anything I could. And I brought my first go-kart for £180 from a guy in Chasewater. My dad took me to pick it up in the Sierra. We put it on a roof rack, brought it back, and then spent the next 3 days trying to work out how to make the thing work because we had no idea. And that was my sort
That's
of
tremendous.
entry into motorsport. Luckily, sort of I got to go karting a little bit, not very much. Did a little sort of just going to Chasewater, Birmingham Wheels, got a bit of a time in a seat, and actually got spotted by a couple of people who was driving quite quick, but we didn't have any money, so I was quite lucky that a few people sort of helped me a little bit along the way, and we ended up doing some racing. I ended up winning a national championship when I was just a kid, but I just sort of got into it really and loved it. And I suppose the motorsport bug then was, well, I was 14 years old, and it was my only, still to this day, only job interview in my entire life was at 14. I picked up Yellow Pages, called the two motorsport companies that existed within a biking distance of where I lived. And actually called the first one, which was a Danish rally team. Asked if I could come and work there. Didn't want paying, I just wanted to come and be involved. Went along one Saturday morning, had my sort of interview, ended up spending the day. Ended up working there anytime I wasn't at school, night, anytime I wasn't karting, I used to just work there. Started earning a little bit of money and then ended up working there straight out of school. And then the other company I worked for was a company called Bill Durrant Racing. It's a former Ford and former Vauxhall team. He was the other person that was local. Obviously, both companies knew each other. And I ended up actually going to work for Bill part-time as a mechanic as well. Got some interesting stories about going to Hockenheim at 15 and different things, but anyway, that's maybe for another podcast. But yeah, got into motorsport straight out of school. Got no qualifications really. Didn't like school at all. So walked out of school, no qualifications, but walked into a job. Actually built and designed and worked on a Nissan Almera rally car. Did the Clemens compressor for Mercedes, different things that this rally team was involved with. I got involved with. Ended up worked there for about a year before I left and went to work at the Formula Ford and Formula Vauxhall team for a bit. And then next door to where we were was an aerospace company. So I ended up talking to them and actually basically I did some Saturday work and got offered a job to go and work there pretty much on double the money where I was on. So I ended up working there in temperature technologies for aerospace, and we're doing things like turbine rings and different stuff like that for Rolls-Royce and stuff like that. Become sort of pretty much head of development or development engineer there. Built things like print line machines for Pilkington and various different stuff. But that started to earn me a bit of money. And then I went to do built a continuous feed pyrolysis system for the Navy and for the government. And when I was doing that, a friend of mine, we started to get back into racing because we were earning good money, and we built a CVT.
He's back.
Yeah, I can hear everything you're saying, but I couldn't. Yeah, obviously you couldn't hear me for some reason. Yeah, someone phoned me.
You dropped me.
Okay,
sorry about
back
that.
to Eddie.
Back to Eddie. So you were telling us you were finding your way back into racing. Then you're finally making a few bob, and you and your friends found your way back into racing.
Yeah, so basically I was working down in Bath for a year, and with a friend of mine we actually built a CVT system for karting, which actually got picked up by a well-known manufacturer, and we ended up looking at sort of moving forward. Unfortunately though, my friend of many years decided to lock the doors, take all the money and the computers and the accounts, and leave me pretty much out of any money, shall we say. So I was about 20 at that time. And then I got decided that I better pick myself up. It took me about 3 minutes to scratch my head and go, oh. Decided to pick myself back up and decided I won't have a business partner anymore. I'll work for myself. And since then, I've just worked for myself, got into electronics, got into aviation, motorsport, various things. I actually, when I started to make some money, I actually built a karting team to try and give back a little bit, because when I was young, obviously I couldn't afford to go racing, so I actually built a kart team and actually decided to turn it into a scholarship program where we're bringing kids in, and I was helping them to go racing and paying for it. We actually ended up building that into one of the biggest teams in Europe. We'd got a junior team, we got a senior team, and we got a European team. We won British, European, World Championship stuff. We were the drivers we got were amazing. We did a really good job. We ended up being the Arden Young Drivers program, which is sort of obviously Arden, which is Christian Horner's thing. We built on that, and then I sold all that off and retired at about 34. Sold some of my other businesses. Had a couple of years off, built a house, got a bit fatter. All the normal things. Watched Game of Thrones from start to finish for some reason. Don't know why, but got into a box set. Ate a lot of crisps and watched every episode continuously. And then after a bit of house, I decided that I want to carry on working, but I want to do something that's interesting. So, although I still owned the electronics business and doing all the motorsport stuff, I'd set it up in a way that I didn't really need to be that involved. But decided some of the people that used to work for me in the race team were still in touch with me and friends, and we ended up actually I set up a business and helped them get going with us and build up an online store and an online presence and grew that business. And then I invested money into several other different businesses, which I'm now doing around AI, robotics, autonomy, aviation. I run the World Accident Database for the FIA. We do all the impact recorders. I've got lots of different things like that, but it's keeps me entertained. And then I decided to do a bit of racing a couple of years ago. Went to a few race teams. Decided that most of them know nothing. They're run by people that are just trying to scam money out of you. Had some stupid conversations with people that I must be the worst customer in the world, because annoyingly I'm one of these people that knows it all, but I'm not a self-professed know-it-all. I actually just know it because I've done it for so long. So when I go to a race team, I just say, look, I'm your worst and best customer because I understand everything that's going to go wrong and accept it. But I also know what you're doing wrong. So everything you try and screw me over on a bill, you try and con me with a bullshit story. I can read data better than anyone in the world. So when I'm looking at the data and someone's like telling me something, I'm just staring at them thinking, like, you have no idea what you're on about. And as I say, as a customer, I must be horrific. But anyway, so I did a bit of radical racing, which was great fun. I love doing that. The cars are amazing, but just didn't sit. The team I was with just didn't feel right for me. I wanted to go to Factory Radical, but they got their own dilemmas going on at the time, so there just wasn't ability to do that. So I stopped that. I did a bit of GT racing abroad for a bit of fun. Built a car myself with some friends. We had a bit of fun with that. And then I did a bit of mini last year. Biggest waste of money I've spent in my entire life. The championships, beyond corrupt. The people are terrible. I won't go into the exact politics of it all, but yes, it was very messy. Spent astronomical amount of money to be just screwed over and just had to walk away. But put a pin in it. I'm not bitter about it. It was a life experience, but I just decided there's no point paying people to do something I can do better myself. So one of the lads who was racing a mini with become a real good friend of mine, Jordan. We decided, had a bit of a chat and said, let's go and do some GT racing, have a bit of fun together, and then decided, well, if we're going to do that, I've got most of the infrastructure, I've got units, I've got everything we needed to do it. So let's set up a team and have a bit of fun together. So that's where we've come to now, and I set up Mahiki Racing as a bit of fun. It's not a profitable thing, or it's not for profit. It's set up. I've employed quite a few people full time, so all the guys know that we've got good job security. And we're running a couple of kids in Europe and a couple of people in the UK. And the nice bit about it is the kids I know from karting, so like Nathan and Dexter and stuff used to race for me when we were kids. So I've known them grow up in the kart teams with me. They've gone off and won various different championships and different things that we've done. And then because I've set up this, they come back to race with us, and we're going racing. And I want to do the same thing where we build this into a really nice sort of team, have a bit of fun with it, become a bit of hopefully a Red Bull-esque type team in the paddock. So once we actually sort out the foundation bit, we'll grow it into something cool and fun. And then I've got my own personal, I suppose, ambitions to go and do Le Mans in the next sort of few years. So hopefully going to drag the guys that are involved with me to come and do that with us and have a bit of a cool time doing it, hopefully, all being well.
Fantastic. Well, it's a hell of a CV, Steve. So it is.
That's a short version, trust me.
It's fantastic. I can't help but feel that it all comes back to that. Almost by 10 years old, you were the complete article, because you'd had the initiative and the gumption to get the electric drill and go out there and do it for yourself. And by 10 years old, you had engineering, you had the get up and go, you had the savvy, you had the beginnings of getting the mechanical nous with the go-karts, and it's just blossomed from there.
Yeah, basically, I've always said I'm not clever, I'm logical, and I'm smart enough to know that I surround myself with clever people. Try to. And I try and just basically not waste my time doing something I know I can't do. And I can work most things out quite quick, but I can work out quite quickly if I'm going to get to it. And if I can't, then find a person that can. Inherently, I'm insanely lazy, is the actual honest answer to all of this. I always sort of giggle about the laziest man in the world invented the wheel because he was bored stiff of carrying the thing up the hill. And it's true. I just,
Yeah.
everything I sort of do, I do in a very, okay, is there an easier, better, simple way to achieve this?
Yes.
And the irony is, I'm in technology. All my businesses are technology based, but I hate technology. I find 95% of it just pointless. There's
Yes.
just like you walk into a room and you can turn a switch on and your lights come on. No,
Yeah.
there's an app for it with an iPad, with a controller, with a whole server room that's using 20 times the amount of electrics needed to turn the damn
Exactly.
light on. And if the internet don't work, the lights don't work. And you just think, oh my good God. Stuff like that, I just find it crazy. But this is where I think we're quite good with technology. I just look at things, okay, what do we need to achieve? How do we achieve it? And do it as simple as possible, or try to anyway. And that's my sort of ethos. Yeah, so actually going back to your first question, who am I? I'm the laziest person you'll meet.
but that sort of vision you have, or that approach you have to technology, is very much what's needed. Because as you say, we have so much technology for technology's sake, and especially in the world of automotive, you only have to sort of jump into a modern car with touch screens, and to adjust the climate control, you have several taps. So if you can have somebody like yourself who's very forward looking and surrounded with the right people, and a vision, has a vision for a technological future, but gets the absolutely blooming common sense of life as well, that's a good mix for moving forward and solving problems with technology without just digging deeper holes.
Yeah, I think so. One thing I'm very, I suppose, it sounds a bit patronizing, probably the wrong word. It sounds a bit big-headed maybe, but Musk's a genius he was an idiot until he's a genius. And I'm very similar in my way of thinking. That's my vision, that's how I'm going to achieve it, and that's what we're going to do. And it's very rare that I go away from that path. I'm very quick to fail fast. I'm very quick to say, okay, this isn't right, we need to change. But
Yes.
I'm very, that is the direction I'm going. I don't wander left and right and faff around with it. It's just, that's what I want to achieve, and that's how I'm going to do it. And I think Musk's very similar. He's got a mission with, when he did the electric car, he didn't do what everyone else did and got a car and put electric batteries and a motor in it. He went, right, okay, let's start from a piece of paper, clean piece of paper, and work up. And that's what I always do. And I always find it a much easier way to do stuff. But the simplicity in what I want to achieve and how I get there is quite good. Or I think it's quite good. And that's my sort of, I suppose, secret to success. But there's also a lot of gambling involved. I'm quite happy to risk everything on me. I'm quite sort of good at that, I suppose, and touch wood, I don't tend to go wrong, which is nice. But it's
Good.
there's a lot of people sort of gamble on stuff and then pull out at the last minute, and that's where it goes wrong. I think that's where a lot of people fail, is we get 90% there, then panic and gone, and that's it. I'm quite, if I'm in.
Yeah, you gotta have a conviction and sort of, before you make the first step, you know what you're gonna make the whole journey.
Yeah, and I think racing's taught me to do that. It sounds really silly, but I used to say to the kids when I was working with them that the one thing that racing will do is teach you to deal with disappointment. And actually, everything in life is pretty simple compared to losing a race as a 10-year-old kid, or getting you sort of just being like destroyed by a load of other people with money. So when you understand that actually that disappointment is about as rubbish as life gets, everything else is pretty simple. So yeah, I just sort of shrug my shoulders to most things and laugh and smirk and just think, yeah, whatever, and get on with it. So I think racing taught me a lot in business.
Yep. Well, I suppose that's the Nicky Lauda saying, isn't it? That it's the times that you're defeated, the times that you're beaten is when you learn. So you stand up, you brush yourself down and think, well, what went wrong there, and you go again.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah, it's, as I say, from the racing when I was a kid, and I remember racing once, and we got beat by a load of people, and my dad was sort of upset, and I was in tears because there was just no way to compete with these people with all this money. One of them was Rick Barfitt, and a few other people that I can remember that I used to race against as a kid, and that was a sort of turning moment that we started to actually get engines tuned and done, and it made a big difference to us go racing. So yeah, you have those things happen, and then, as I say, when I got ripped off by a friend, I could have been sad, I could have gone and beat him up, I could have whatever you want to call it, And actually, it genuinely took me less than 3 minutes to decide it's the best thing that could have happened. I get on with my own life. I actually broke into where we were, stole all the stuff that belonged to customers, and then drove around the country giving it them back and apologising that it had gone wrong. And actually, it was one of the best things I did. So I still deal with some of those people now. And one of the people that I actually give the stuff to actually works for me now. So it's amazing how sort of things move around and change. But yeah, I've always lived by quite good morals, and I've always been very straight with people. Find it much easier. And everybody always falls out about money, so it's easier to ignore it.
Well, that's it. That's it. Well, doing the right thing, never does any harm. So, as you say, you do right by people, treat people right, and it whatever you want to call it, karma or whatever, it always comes back to you. So it does. Yeah. You mentioned Mr. Musk. Got to mention in passing. One of your businesses seems quite heavily involved in autonomous vehicles. I was looking online. That's a very interesting thing. Autonomous vehicles, perhaps not so much in terms of we're thinking of the car of the future driving itself to the shops, but small working vehicles for agriculture and military use, etc. That's an interesting field, I would imagine.
Yeah, so I won't bore you with a long story again, but we basically got involved with a company that were doing the pods at Heathrow, and they were actually got a contract for Korea to make a self-driving vehicle. And at the time, my company was doing the electric motors, controls and stuff to actually make it all work, so the drivetrain of a vehicle. And someone else was actually building the control system, which was the autonomous part. And this had been going on for about 18 months. And I called a meeting and just realised that actually no one had any idea how to make this thing drive, because no one had asked me for the information and how to make the motors work. So I knew it was a little bit fake, but we were 3 weeks away from going to Korea. So we sort of had a bit of a conversation, and I just said, just don't pay me. I'll just sort this out. It can't be that hard. For Christ's sake, other people are doing it. Went and spoke to a couple of people that sort of work with me. We sat down, and within 3 weeks, we designed and built a fully autonomous self-driving vehicle control system, put it on top of the vehicles, had them driving around, picking up people, dropping them off, avoiding objects and stuff like that. And the reason we could do it so fast was everything in motorsport happens at 200 mile an hour. So all the controls, the systems, everything happens fast. Self-driving vehicles are pretty dumb, to be honest. You drive quite slowly. So we did that project, went to Korea, won this contract, different things, did a few other projects for different people, moved hundreds of people around on a bus. So there's some talk at the moment around, there's a bus that goes over the Forth Bridge, and it's like, the first time we've moved passengers. We did this years ago. It took me 250,000 quid and took me about 3 months from start to finish, including being the first company to actually get a public trial with people and insured. So when these people are on TV saying, it's the first public trial, we moved hundreds of people around at airports and stuff. It's all just nonsense. But the self-driving thing is majority smoke and mirrors, complete nonsense. It's quite funny. So we sort of looked around it a little bit, went to some meetings. I'm quite outspoken, as you can probably tell. And I just sat in these meetings laughing my head off at these people talking about getting government grants to make stuff drive around. And I just thought, it's just a scam. But the UK government have put £440 million into self-driving autonomy programs in the last 3 years.
Crazy.
And the only 2 projects that I've ever driven are the 2 I've done. And we charge 250 grand for each of them. So it gives you some idea of how much money is wasted. It's genuinely just gobsmacking. So I basically got involved in this. A couple of the guys that I'm involved with sort of liked it, so we decided to do a little bit more. And then I actually, like most things, decided to do it on steroids. So I'm actually just going through public listing at the moment, and we're looking at putting the company onto NASDAQ. We're going to be hopefully the first self-driving company that's listed on NASDAQ. I own all the company, so I've given some shares to different people that work with me. But I'm going to be pretty much one of the biggest shareholders of any NASDAQ-listed company in the world. We're going to list it. We've had it valued at about 770 million. It's fully funded by me. The entire project's been sort of funded by the sort of company itself, and then we're looking to list on NASDAQ. And honestly, it's a bit of a marketing stunt, very similar to a Tesla scenario, but we're focused on reality, which is off-highway, controlled environments, moving
Yeah.
people, mobility, logistics, farming, agri-tech, stuff like that. So we're very focused. We do all of it ourselves. We're one of a few companies in the world, as like us, Google and Tesla, that do it in the way we're doing. Everybody else is buying parts off people and then bolting them together to make it work. We actually build all the software, the hardware and firmware ourselves. So we've got complete control. 100% of the IP belongs to us. We can drive around without GPS. We can drive around using various different techniques. And we're one of the only companies in the world, as us and Google, that don't actually, sorry, us, Google and Tesla are the only 3 companies in the world I know of that don't use LiDAR to drive around, which is the biggest reason that all these self-driving car companies can't build anything or make anything, is because they don't know how to drive around without LiDAR, because it's something you pick up, you buy. Most of these people that have set up companies are university students that have had a cheap LiDAR sensor, or have done a project where you build my first sort of self-driving robotic car. But we actually, again, started with a clean piece of paper, built it from the ground up, and we've got vehicles driving around. We've got agri-tech vehicles, JCBs, farming mowers. We've got pods. We've got utility vehicles, off-road vehicles, and they're all fully autonomous, and we can drive them around completely uniquely. But as I say, as a company, we're focused very much on the reality of not driving on the road at the moment. Tesla drives down the road. It's very clever. The best thing that Tesla's done is actually drive round and get permission to have an autopilot on the road. That's genius. That's the thing he's done to make money. But the off-highway stuff, luckily, there's about 300 people in the world trying to do it. There's a couple that are actually able to make something drive, but they're all using LiDAR, which is someone else's stuff, and then we're doing our own thing, which is great. So hopefully, as I say, if we can just pull all the paperwork and stuff together for this listing, then we'll actually announce, and hopefully later this Q4 this year, push it out to the world and go, ta-da, look what we can do.
Fantastic.
So,
Well, 2 things that come to mind from that. First of all, I think when you go public, I think also it'll take your story public as well. And
yeah.
I think you'll open a lot of eyes and shake a lot of people when they actually do appreciate what you guys have achieved and what you're planning to achieve. And sort of
Yeah.
second thought was what was as well, it's very clever and important by focusing on the off-road stuff, because perhaps much more than replacing the taxi with a self-driving car, perhaps we need the next generation of tractor, for want of a better word, autonomous vehicles doing the drudge work, in various off-road situations. That's probably a more valuable tool than a self-driving sports car or family car.
Yeah, it's when you actually dig into it, it's a little bit sort of different. So I'll try and explain it, because most people you talk to go, I'll talk about agri-tech to give you an idea, but most people go, you're taking jobs, and it's not. It's completely the other way around. You're creating jobs, because again, back to most people being lazy. People don't like doing very much. But if you go to car factories 50 years ago, they used to be producing 1, 2 cars a day, and you'd have 100 people doing it. Now they can produce a car every 30 seconds or 6 minutes or 1 minute, or I think it's 90 seconds, Nissan throw a car off a production line. The
Yes, and
reason we
China's
can do
fully
that,
automated now as well. Yeah, no workers in some of these
well,
Chinese lines as well,
yeah,
supposedly.
there is people. There's lots of people involved. They employ thousands of people, way more than they used to. But the reason we can do it is because the automated part, which is a labour-intensive part, like welding the chassis up or painting the chassis,
Yeah,
robots can do that really efficiently, much better and more efficient than a person. So the
yeah.
bottleneck disappears. So what happens now is you can employ 1,000 people before the line, because the bit that used to take all the time is now done by robots.
Yeah.
So autonomy has actually created jobs, not the other way around. And this is the same in what we're doing. So farming, for example, yes, you could say, oh, it can drive up and down and do some boring stuff where they're ploughing seeds and they're dropping stuff. Yeah, that's great. It can, but that isn't actually where autonomous vehicles come in. the way in which we actually help a lot more is in the high value crop areas, because it's not that we saves money, it does, but it creates a better yield. So, for example, most tractors you see on the road are really big. And the reason they're really big is because the guy buys that tractor to do 50 jobs. Whereas if you go back in time, you used to have a man with a horse and a little plough, and he used to plough the field, but he used to get a really good yield from it. Now, to get that same yield, we have a massive tractor which compresses all the soil. So you then need a big tractor to then tow a big hoe behind to turn all the soil over to create the ability to get the crop in. That crop then doesn't grow as well because it can't break the soils enough. So you actually lose about 30% of the yield because the tractor's heavy. You damage the soil. You then have to put all the pesticides and nutrients in to try and help it grow because you damage the soil. And every 3 years, you have to leave a field where it can't do anything. But if you had lighter tractors, they don't compress the soil as much, so we don't need to turn it over as much. So you can actually get a better yield. The tractor can go over smaller. It can autonomously, perfectly line out the seeds. It can put the seeds in itself, but then the next bit of the nutrients, you're not throwing on a blanket set of nutrients all over the field, which would help some parts of the field, but destroy the other natural nutrients in the soil. You're then using a lot less pesticides, fertilizer, and all the rest of it, because you can use AI to identify weeds and black grass and different things like that. So all of a sudden, you're not damaging the soil. The natural ability for the earth to grow plants and crops is way better than any of the chemical stuff. So by not damaging the soil, you get faster, better quality vegetables, or produce better lettuces. You can use AI again to hoe around the lettuce so we get a better, faster growth and a bigger lettuce. All of a sudden, the small robots and the small AI, data-driven sort of machines actually create so much more yield. And if you imagine, like, most farmers are looking for £10 a hectare extra to be really interested, but when you can create 100 times more, or if you can up their yield by just 10%, 5% solves world hunger. 10% means we've got more food than we can ever deal with. So robots only have to be 5% more efficient than a person in an area to solve world hunger. It sounds really silly when you sort of say it out loud, but that's actually the volume that we need to change to fix all these problems. And then that brings down the cost of crops. It brings down the cost of all the problems, because the yields that you can get from the same volume of area in the same time becomes so much better. All of a sudden, you've not got to import as much. You're not got, and it's not importing it that's wrong. It's the moving and logistics of all the stuff from around the world, whether it's imported, exported, whatever. If we can actually use robots to data drive and give the information and autonomy to grow this area, or help the production of food in this country, we can self-sustain. And this is the same for every country. And all of a sudden, you're fixing that problem, and then the economy costs and stuff go down. And these are the things that really need to be done. And I presume you've watched Jeremy Clarkson's farm scenario.
Yes, of course, yes.
It's funny, it's great, but it's real. It's telling a story.
Yeah.
And luckily, one of the guys that I know sort of knows Caleb and a few people there, and it's quite interesting having conversations about what they're doing and how they're actually making people really aware of agri-tech and farming and how bad it is. But the reality is there's no money in it, because there's so many costs there to actually grow food or grow cattle, whatever it may be. You can't actually produce the stuff quick enough. So that's where all the farmers are diversifying and doing different things. But the autonomy and the data-driven side of it will bring those costs down for them. I think last season it was something like £98,000 worth of fertiliser was used on Jeremy's farm. But actually, if you data-driven that fertiliser, you'd be down at about £6,000. So all of a sudden, the robot can actually go out, analyze the soil, the nutrients, wherever things are. We can use AI and robotics to actually then target all the problems. And you're saving £92,000 a year on fertiliser. Now, luckily, BASF and the different chemical producers are really interested in this. It's very similar to Fairy advert. Why would Fairy not want to sell you more Fairy liquid? Well, we don't need to. They actually tell you that, look, you buy ours, you use less of it. The fertiliser companies are exactly the same, because they know that if you can use less, they can charge more for it. so that's fine. But we don't have to produce as much. The cost of production comes down, and their profit margins go up exactly the same as fairies. And the better growth and the bigger picture is always what people want, but everyone always looks, I suppose, small picture. We never see that. But as I say, the fairy advert is the perfect way to explain to people that chemical companies want to sell you less. We just want to make profit, and we're fine with doing that on less of it. So there's lots and lots of ways in which, as I say, we can help stuff. And then you get into the aviation side and airports and all the other side. But the autonomy, just working alongside some people on some very simple tasks, saves on fuel, increases efficiency. Like, we can land an extra 6 planes a day by automating some, not all, just a few of the processes on planes, or on the apron, shall we say, on the air side of moving luggage and logistics. And it's like a herd mentality. So imagine Amazon, the guy's there packing a box, and all the parcels he's going to pack in that hour turn up in one go, and he's got to shift through them and find them and put them in a box. It's terrible. The guy would always be behind. You'd never get your parcel. But what happens is it's automated, where all the bits that are going in that box magically land in that box at the right time. The guy seals it, and off it goes. The next box appears. So you get rid of this herd mentality. So what happens on an airport is 100 people get off a bus, cram into a bus. The bus then takes them to a passport. Then 100 people move to passport control. Whereas imagine just the first 3 rows come out and got onto a bus, and then their luggage, they knew they were in the first 3 rows. Their luggage went onto an automated carrier and took it down to the where you do baggage collection. As those 10 people are walking through passport control, the next 10 are coming off and coming on the bus and coming as the next 10. Their cases are going. All of a sudden, you've got this really steady flow of traffic. And just by doing that, you increase the efficiency of the airport by 20%. Just by moving people slowly. It's like a traffic jam on a road. If you just, like everyone says about the smart motorways, it's so simple to fix. Smart motorways aren't smart in any way. There's a person watching the screen that presses a button. And I've had conversations with the government and the highways agency about this technology exists now that can automate this so well, but just by saying, look, we can see this build up of traffic here, just by slowing that area of traffic down by 1 mile an hour would take away the queue and congestion that's going to appear in 10 miles. And this automated stuff and this AI algorithms that exist that we can do, like, you just look and you think there shouldn't be a traffic jam anywhere anymore. The cost of putting this AI technology in is so cheap. No one understands it, or no, that's wrong. There's only a few people understand it. Lots of people talk about it, but it just needs doing and implementing. And as I say, it's just whether it's a traffic jam, whether it's moving people around. There's so many technologies that exist at the moment that could just fix so much. It just needs doing. I can rant for hours about it.
It's all good. It's fascinating. It's really good. And I can't help but think of perhaps our problem here in the West as well, is that we run in election cycles as well. So everybody's got a 2-year, 4-year, 5-year vision, if they have a vision at all, in the world of politics and government. And maybe we need to look at our life in the bigger picture, and perhaps places like China will move ahead of us in terms of getting on board with this kind of thinking and making things happen.
Well, what we are as a nation, I'm not very much into politics, to be honest, but I suppose my view on it is we're actually becoming a third world country really fast, because we don't actually generate any money anymore. Everybody works for the rich person. So the rich person's got gardeners, chauffeurs, I don't know, photographers, whatever it is. We're turning ourselves into a third world nation where the rich people have got a load of people that work for them. Now, you can call it slave, modern day slavery, or you can call it a job, whichever one you want to call it. We don't create anything. We just move the same money around in a circle. Whereas the Chinas of the world, they're becoming so powerful because they're producing stuff, they're doing stuff. This comes back to lazy again. This comes back to just, we are lazy as a country. And the problem you got with government, whether it's Labour, whether it's whatever, at the end of the day, the country is a business. It takes an amount of money in and an amount of money out. And no matter which nonsense you go down, of how you're going to do it, you still have an amount of money. And everyone really, it sounds really derogatory, but God, people are stupid. They are driven by the news. The news, if it's BBC or ITV or Sky, whoever, they back somebody, same as newspapers, for Labour, Conservative, or whichever. And they just say something which is clickbait, and it gets people running down this road so quickly. And you think, God, are these people so gullible? It's unbelievable. All politicians are salespeople. Boris Johnson went to vote and forgot his ID. He didn't forget his ID at all. It's a giant marketing stunt. But the amount of people that said, "Oh, have you seen Boris forgot?" I thought, and I keep saying to him, "Don't you get it?" I said, "It's a marketing stunt. You haven't mentioned Boris Johnson for 3 months. All of a sudden, he's back in the public eye. Conservatives are going to go tits up. He's setting himself up in a place where, if he does, he'll be the person that will go, ta-da, I'm a genius." And he's rocked up. I said, but he's in your face. He's name dropping all over the news because we're that gullible and stupid. We think it's real. I said, I actually think Richie Sunak, or Sunak, whatever it is, has done a blinder what he's done. He promised an election at the end of the year. He's gone away, he's squirreled away, done loads and loads and loads of work to get all his things set up. And then what he's done is he's gone, I'm going to drop a bomb. Right, we're having an election soon. All the other parties have gone, oh shit, we thought we got 3 or 4 months to get this done.
Yep.
So they're all behind. And what he's doing is he's dropping out some really clever things. He's picked a time to have the election when all the young people, football fans and everything, that probably aren't the Conservative voter, aren't around. They're on holiday in the football. And all the older people that probably are, as a demographic, he's cut the pensions, he's helped them out. He's staging it in a way. He knows that most old people always go, bring back the mandated army or whatever bloody it is, service.
National service. Yes.
Yeah, he's actually this comes back to, he's data driven. He's worked out that demographic of customer are going to be around at this time when he votes. Because if they don't go away because all the school holidays are on, if they don't go away because of football, they'll be around to vote. Your Labours and the people like that, I can't stand Keir Starmer in any way. I think he's horrific as a person. I don't know him. I only know what I see on TV, but God, is it boring. And they don't actually have an answer for anything that's coming out because they can't disagree with what he's saying because it's right. End of the day, the country needs an amount of money to run. That is it. You can tell people all day long you're going to give them this and take that. It's bullshit. It's total bullshit. You need an amount of money. And the government will come in, and if it's Labour come in, they'll get in and go, oh, we can't do anything because Conservatives ruined it. We'll spend 4 years or 2 years or whatever it is till they elect again. Everyone will go, oh, Labour are rubbish. We've done nothing. We'll go back to Conservative. Because they'll spend all the time going, Labour have done nothing, we said. It's just a political newspaper's dream, honestly. It sends me up the wall. But the world buys into it, or the country buys into it. Trump is a genius at it. He's a marketing genius. He probably leaked the story about whatever her name is himself. Because, Christ, he can get more marketing. He hasn't had to pay anything for a campaign. He's just had a court trial that the American press has put him everywhere. The guy's a genius. These people are clever. They're not stupid. There's no reason Musk went on TV, smoked a joint. He set up, I'm going to buy myself 100 million quid worth of stock back. I'll go and smoke a joint. That'll crash my price. Oh, shock, I'm buying my stock back next day. It's marketing. And this is a bit I struggle with. And politics is marketing, but God, people are stupid. And that's going to probably come across really wrong, but fact of the matter is, I actually had someone knock on my door once and asked about, and was trying to tell me something on politics, and I let rip for about 15 minutes, and then she tried to get me to be head of I don't know, whatever the political thing is around here, like the local election thing. I'm probably not the person to stand up and talk in front of people. But anyway, never mind. That's me.
Well, here
from most of this out of a conversation, yeah. But anyway, we'll go with
it's all good. It's all good. Well, here from those British institutions to another British institution. Tell me about the Lotus GT4 car. It's a new project from Lotus, and it's new to you guys as well. Tell me all about it. Are you pleased with the machine itself and how it's going?
Yeah. Honestly, we got involved with a project right at the start. So one of my electronics companies was working with Elise and Exige, and we did all the final runs and different stuff. And I got involved with the Amira project right at the start. And then obviously the GT4 side was quite exciting for me. I think it started around 2018 area, 17, 18. So it's been going on for quite a while. But Lotus have obviously gone through various different stages. We've been brought out by Geely since then. And different things. There's been quite a few staff changes, but the key sort of people, Gav Kershaw, Louis, people like that are still there, and they're sort of like the key people behind all this happening. So if you're going to go racing, there's two ways to do it. You go and buy a car that won last year and drive it around and go, ta-da, I'm driving the car that won. If I was going to enter F1, you go and buy a Red Bull and race it. So that's option one. Or option two, as I always say, start with a clean piece of paper. Right, what car do we know? Right, I know the manufacturer, I know the people, I've got direct contact, I can talk to them. Called them up and said, look, I'm going to build a race team, I want to go GT racing, what can we do? Spoke to a couple of people that used to work there. Let's just call them Muppets. Complete bunch of Muppets, they're not there anymore, they left. Then spoke to Gavin Louis, which I've known for a while now, and to be honest, most of us come from Louis Kerr. So we went over to F4, had a sat down and said, look, I'm willing to run with Lotus, but what I want is an open book policy that we know what's going on, we know how it's going on, and we can see what we can do. Lotus can't help financially, they can't do anything with it, which is a real shame. GT racing is customer racing, it's meant to be for middle-aged men to go racing. The reality is it's a bunch of kids now. But anyway, let's go with where are we going. So we looked at the car. The guys at Lotus let me take away a car and have a bit of play with it, see what I thought. We spent a few months testing, did a lot of miles in it, and actually got to a point of going, yeah, okay, I think it's got some real legs. In the background, started to obviously talk to some people I knew and push some people, get some things set up, ready to go and build a team next year. And then we decided we basically got 5 cars now. So invested the money in some cars, paid the entry fees for British and European championships up front before we did anything. So the entry fee alone was over £120,000. So yeah, we put £1 million down, or probably over that, probably £1.5 million down before we actually did anything, and said, right, let's go racing, man. And then spoke to a few people and said, look, I've got a race team, fancy coming along. So we made a commitment to Lotus. Lotus in return made a big commitment in saying, yeah, okay, you're going to be the team that's going to basically either make sure we never sell another car ever or sell a car. So they've got as much riding on this going well as us. And hopefully they know I'm the right sort of person that won't quit. I'm not the right person to sort of throw me Teddy out of pram and go, oh, this is broke, that's not worked. We're a brand new team. I haven't gone in and brought a team. I've started from the ground up. Same with the car. Have we had teething issues? Yes. There has been things that we've learned, things that we've done. That is how it works. But what we've done is looked at each thing and gone, okay, how can we change it? How can we be better? Where is the way in what that can happen? I have got an open dialogue with Lotus. Lotus come along to most of the events, supporting us, looking. We just basically have a complete open policy on, right, okay, how can we go faster? What can we do? And I've committed, we're out testing once, twice a week, every week. Lucky that we don't have a budget. We're able to just go and do whatever's needed. Probably should have a budget to be much more sensible. But I want to do Lotus proud as a brand. I think they're a great company. I think the car's amazing. I think they made a huge step forward for what is a UK brand that could have very easily just ended. So I think Aston Martin have done a very similar thing. They got some investment, a clever person behind it. It's made huge leaps forward. And I'm glad Lotus has as well. It's a sort of really cool, iconic brand. It's got a massive cult following. Everywhere we go, I can honestly say we've probably got the busiest group of people outside the garages, the biggest and best following. The fans are really nice. They love the branding, the cars. We invite anyone along, come along, take photos, be involved. We want to do more. as a brand, but I'm very committed to make sure that we don't screw up for Lotus, because, as I say, if we do a bad job, they're never going to sell another GT car. So we're committed to doing it right for them and my own, got to save face as well. I have to walk around with paddock. So I suppose the fact I'm racing UK and Europe as well makes it hard. But the European side, I made a commitment to actually race with my friend. He's quite new to motorsport, so we're having a bit of fun with it, and he's learning, which is great fun. And then the other two kids, as I say, they're two superstars, which are really fast. The hardest part of all the racing we've done so far is the balance of performance. So the BOP on the cars is hard. Because we're the only people racing it in the world, no one has any idea if a speed is in the car or a speed is in us.
Yeah, I was going to say, with being new, they probably err on the side of caution from their point of view, probably
caution.
when BOPing
it. Yeah, so we're on.
I've hammered you.
First race. Yeah, first race we got maximum rate, maximum ride height, and minimum power. The second race, pretty much the same. The third race, they give us 20. We took a little bit of weight out and give us 20 horsepower, and then we went and got that record, which is great. But what no one knew is we've been at Silverstone every single week. Every time there was a test day at Silverstone, we were there for the last 6 months. We have done more laps around Silverstone in the last 6 months than most people do in their lifetime. And we got there and we flew. And we were fastest in the dry, we were fastest in the wet. And we took the 20 horsepower away. I went, it's 20 horsepower. But it isn't the horsepower that kills us, it's the torque. And because we take away the bottom end torque, we can't get out of a corner. So we're always behind. So hopefully, as I say, we raced again this weekend at Donington. We raced in Mazzano in Italy without it. Each time we're about a second a lap off. And in the open testing, we actually turned the horsepower up. So we put it onto the next map, which is what the bot map was for the time at Silverstone. And we proved over and over again now that it gives us about a second a lap, which sounds crazy for 20 horsepower. You just think, oh, that's just not real. Yeah. But because it's a supercharged car, because of how the torque curve works, it just lets us get going. So we've actually asked if he can say, look, can you give us the power, but put more weight in, put more, lift the car up a bit, hinder us in another way, because we can go around the corners fast, that's great. But if there's something in front of you, you can't go any faster than the thing in front. And if you're behind a Mustang, which is a very different car, it's heavier, bigger, but it's got so much power, you follow it through the corner, and then it just drives 10 car lengths away in a straight line. So any gain that we have, we've lost, and we can never get back because it's gone then, and then you can't catch it. Whereas I spent 10 laps getting past a BMW. I was like, super chuffed with myself. I was like, yes, that was the third. And then the very next straight, he pulled out, drove past me and pulled in. I spent 10 laps risking life and limb at 150 mile an hour to just about outbrake him into a corner. And then he drove past me in a straight line. I was just like, that's just not fun. But I get SRO's point of view. They've got to try stuff. They've got to see where it fits. But I'm not the fastest driver in the world. As I got older, I've slowed down. But I'm quite good at the engineering side of it. I can drive around and talk you through every bump, every pebble. I'm going that slow. I can see every single blade of grass, so I can tell you what to do. I can tell the kids what to do. I can't do it myself, but I can tell you what to do. It's quite hard, that is. I'm sort of coaching kids that are faster than me. But anyway, the idea behind it is the young kids, luckily, have got enough respect for me, or just switch off and pretend they're listening. I haven't worked that one out yet. But hopefully, I say the kids we got, like Max won the Porsche Championship, Dexter's won various karting championships. He's done F4, he's done F3, he's done touring car. He was not with the best team, shall we say, and he's still batting around only a couple of tenths off the best drivers and the best teams. So Dexter's a very quick driver. Gordy's obviously won the Praga stuff. He's exceptionally quick. He's I call him Chubby Harry Potter. He's just the nicest kid. He's so funny, but God, is he fast. And I say we've been out testing, and all these kids go out together, and all of them, depending what day it is, we're 10th here or 10th there, they're all about the same pace. So I'm hoping, as I say, that those guys will do what they need to do. We all know that we're being held back a little bit, but once we get released, once the car gets put to where it should be, we should be batting around in the top 10 without a problem. And then it comes down to racing. Who's got the best racecraft? Who can make the tyres last? we always have to set the car up, because we know we can't qualify as fast as people because of the BOP. We always set the car up in a way that we can do a 3 hours or 2 hour race, and we're consistent. And the last race at Silverstone, we were number 1 and number 2 for the 2 cars and the 2 driver pairings for the consistency of how many laps we put in within a tenth of a second. And that's what we do as a team, and that's what we're working on. And the platform is very good for that. The balance in the car is great. The weight distribution is good. It's good on its tyres. It's good on its brakes. It's a good car. And it looks really cool as well. So, yeah, it's not bad. Lotus have done an okay job.
Fantastic. And it's great to hear you talking about that, because it's a balance between, obviously you're so involved with technology, and that is fantastic, but when it comes to racing, when it comes down to it, there's some very old school skills, and just doing the hard yards and doing the testing and doing the work and crunching the numbers, in a way it hasn't changed in 40 or 50 years. You just have to, get your head down and do the hard work and crunch the numbers to go faster.
100%. I can honestly tell you, I have done more driving in the Lotus GT4 than anyone else in the world. I didn't realise that till the other day when someone told me that I probably have. And we sort of looked at it and gone, considering I'm out every week, I've definitely drove a Lotus GT4 more than anyone else. But with my knowledge, I can tell you damper clicks, I can tell you ride outs, I can tell you tyre pressure errors, I can tell you roll bar settings, I can tell you every single thing that we're doing. And as you say, no matter what theory is, there's a reality check on. I can tell you where to go with the car and what we need to do. And if we put the car down we picked a setup, we got a real good base setup now, that if we go out there, we have a slight tweak left or right, and we're good to go racing. We know we're good. That's taken a lot of effort. And as you say, all your CFD data, all your information, it's all great. We built a beautiful car. The reality when you hit the track, a little bit different. But we got that sorted, and as I say, I'm pretty comfortable that every time I get in the race car, it's good. Everyone we've let have a go of it has been a lot, has always said, it's one of the best cars we've ever driven. And I think it's a genuine thing. The car is actually pretty well balanced, and it's good fun to drive as well.
Fantastic. Well, more power to your elbow, so everybody should definitely check out Mahiki Racing and the Lewis Amira GT4. Races coming up, I presume there's still a few. Yeah, you guys are Spa and then Snetterton. Is that the next on the British Championship?
Yeah. So we got Spa UK, followed by the following weekend Spa Europe.
Oh yes.
Then we get back. We got a week off before we go to Snetterton, and then we drive to Hockenheim the week after that. And then we get to have 5 minutes to have a refresh and a stop and a go again. So that'll be put my feet up. Better take the missus and kids on holiday, else I'll be shocked. But yeah, that's the next step in my life. And then I could actually go to the gym at some point. I'm the most unfit person at the moment ever. I spend all my time working, but I'm sort of race fit, but I'm not actually fit. But I wander upstairs and go, I need a ventilator at the moment. So maybe need to put some effort into that over summer. But anyway, don't tell anyone.
When you manage to find time, Steve. Well, here, it has been fantastic. It's been a really, really interesting conversation. And I get the impression we could talk all night. It's sort of the sort of conversation where you feel like you need to open a couple of bottles and set the world to rights. But it's been wonderful catching up with your story so far and how things are going with Mahiki Racing. Before we wind things up, Steve, there is one question, and Georgie will shoot my boots if I don't ask it. One question Georgie asks everybody on the podcast, and it's a yes or no answer. I'm sure, like myself, you enjoy the odd slice of pizza. So Georgie's question to every guest is pineapple on pizza, yes or no?
Yes. Like, who wouldn't have pineapple on pizza? It's really like just pops in your mouth.
Exactly.
If anyone says different, just go away.
Yeah, Team Pineapple all the way.
All the way.
Well, here, Steve, thank you so much for your time. Continued success to you and the guys, and we would love to have you back sometime again, because there's so much more we could talk about. But for tonight, thanks Steve Lake so much.
No problem. Great talking to you, and thanks so much for listening. If anyone's actually got this far in my podcast, by the way, congratulations, well done. All right, really nice. Thanks, guys.
Cheers.
Have a nice
Cheers,
evening.
Steve.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.